Hey guys, decided I might as well make a video out of this. So we're talking today about Hellions. So someone brought up an interesting point. I just played a Terran versus Zerg. I use a lot of Hellions, and the guy massed Lings. Now, this is going to sound really weird. I don't blame someone for massing Lings. I actually don't think that it's the worst thing to do against someone who tries to play something like Cyclone Hellion. And the reason why, I'm just going to explain this to you briefly. I'm just going to show you, generally speaking, the relationship of units. So we just assume, what's a normal scenario to have happen? Hellions versus Lings, right? Super normal. You have a couple Hellions, your opponent has Speedlings. Now, normally, you're going to engage out in the middle of the map. It's whatever. You're going to kite your Hellions back. And you're going to try to do as much as you can. Now, this is pretty typical. I'm not going Code S level micro. But I mean, you can still kill pretty good resources. This trade is not that bad for the Zerg because it's resource-wise. So, there are things that make this really weird. So let's say that you're playing a TVZ, and you're going to go Cyclone Hellion or something. So let's say that you've got, I don't know, instead this time you're going to have 8 Hellions. And your opponent is going to have, like, maybe 30 Zerglings. He's going to defend his base. All right, he wants to defend his third base from an attack. You want to harass his third. I'm not adding Cyclones into this because they're really weird and they don't fit very well. But if you're going to get into a fight and the Zerg has that base set up, Hellions scale better with numbers, right? And if you do really fancy micro, you can do it without losing anything. But there's a particular way that a Zerg can play that really helps a lot. And that, I think, is when they go for carapace upgrades. So we assume that you've got 1/1 links. It's standard for Zerg to go for faster upgrades than a mech Terran. Now, microing both sides isn't really that doable. So I'll just try to do reasonable micro. And you can trade these out. But the thing is, Terran usually doesn't have these upgrades. So links can kind of trade still versus them. It's kind of not fair because the links aren't being microed. But even if you have Blue Flame, if you don't have those attack upgrades as mech, the Lings are still very hard to deal with because you don't two-shot them as easily as the upgrades begin to scale. So you can see some of those Lings. Of course, I have 8 Hellions with Blue Flame, so it's not quite the same, but it's not uncommon to get into scenarios where you'll have an opponent go for a very big attack.
Are you ready for this?
I don't know a way to simulate Hellion micro. So normally it'd be like something like this where they just surround you and get you like this. And a lot of these Lings have like 1 or 2 health left. So that's kind of what I'm getting at. This is what I'm trying to show you. The relationship of upgrades for Zerglings is actually really interesting. And they are extremely good versus Hellions if both sides are microing them before Hellions reach some crazy critical mass, especially if you have a few Banelings mixed in. So this is why I talk about this a lot on my stream. If you get +1 vehicle weapons for your Blue Flame Hellions, they will do enough damage to 2-shot Lings, I'm pretty sure, regardless of any upgrades. We give them +3 carapace. You should still be able to take care of a lot of Lings with your Hellions. And this is just +1. Notice how there are no red hit point Lings. This is the most important part. Some of them are beginning to regen since it's been through the fight, but they don't survive with 1 health left. They lose half their health, they regenerate 1 or 2 health, and then, you know. Now, of course, you can still see a scenario where a few of those Lings lived a little longer than they normally would. If you give the Terran +3 mech upgrades, obviously it's going to be a slaughter. But, because they'll take enough damage that they'll still be one-shot after being hurt, and the regen won't help as much. As you can see, the regen isn't helping anymore. So you only need +1 to secure that two-shot. That 2-shot that I was talking about. And just to specify one more time, if you don't have +1 and the Zerg player has +1, I'll just show you what it looks like to have a single Ling get shot by a Hellion. That regen allows it to not get 2-shotted. And this is a pretty big deal.
Are you ready for this?
I don't know, maybe I messed it up. Anyway, my point is, usually with the way that Lings are running around, they get that regen faster. It's the first hit point of regen. Anyway, it's really weird because in the test map, that scenario never occurs in a real game, but in real games, Zerglings will often have 1 health versus your Hellions if you don't have +1. So that's really all I'm trying to get at here. Hopefully you guys found this interesting. Upgrades are important for Hellions, but the most important upgrade is +1. If you have +1, you'll 2-shot Lings. If you don't, Lings can actually overwhelm you because they'll take 3 volleys to kill, especially if you play one of those mech styles where you don't get upgrades at all, and those exist. I mean, Cyclone Hellion. Cyclones don't need upgrades because lock-on isn't affected, but there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed a little bit of game knowledge. Cheers.